And good afternoon, everybody. Once again, this is David Stearns from Haley Marketing Group, and welcome to today's Lunch with Haley event, Online Staffing, Ideas for How to Play. I am very excited to introduce our two guest speakers for today's webinar. First off, we have Andrew Karpie, and in thinking about how to introduce Andrew, I went to his LinkedIn profile, and I absolutely loved the description. So under Andrew's name, it says business, technology, researcher, analyst, product, marketer, planner, writer, and evangelist, and I couldn't think of a better description for Andrew. For those of you who may not know Andrew, he also happens to be an affiliate analyst for Staffing Industry Analysts, and he's probably one of the most knowledgeable people in the world, if not the most knowledgeable person, about trends and issues in online staffing. And Andrew is going to be joined today by Chirag Mehta, who is the founder and CEO of NextCrew. And NextCrew is a software platform that several traditional staffing companies are using to create new online staffing models, and Chirag is going to show you some real-life examples of some of the different ways that staffing companies are getting into online staffing. So in terms of the agenda for today's webinar, that's the intros. If there are questions along the way, please feel free to shoot them in. I will be acting as the moderator, and I'll be happy to ask Andrew or Chirag questions. Also, you can use our live tweet, #LunchWithHaley, and ask questions from our team. We're going to be talking today about staffing and online platforms and looking at some of the different models that are out there, because I know personally I kind of thought of online staffing as being entirely what oDesk and Elance did, and Andrew has introduced me to lots of different ways that staffing firms are looking at online staffing. We're going to take a look at some platforms. Specifically, we're going to look at NextCrew and some examples of different ways that platform is being used to create playbooks for different staffing companies. And then we'll wrap it up with Q&A. So with that said, I'm going to quiet myself down. And Andrew, if you wouldn't mind, let's get started.
Hey, thank you very much, David, and great to be here today. Yeah, as you said, I mean, this whole subject of online staffing, who knew anything about it several years ago, just a few years ago, but now online staffing has been become a bit of a buzzword. Something that you know, can evoke many different emotions and understandings within staffing businesses. Like all buzzwords, oftentimes, you know, what they actually mean can become confused. So a part of what we're going to be doing here today is, you know, really trying to kind of demystify online staffing and the buzzword of it. And, you know, within a few minutes from now, hopefully, everyone here will have a better idea of what online staffing really means and how it is actually something that is very relevant and is being viewed as very relevant and important to the future of many staffing firms. It's not something foreign, and it's not something out there, and something that cannot be adopted in many different ways and leveraged. So that's what this whole webinar is about. And to start off, online staffing, as the slide suggests, and we have some really excellent data here from Staffing Industry Analysts that I've done in the course of my research. Online staffing is real and it is growing. If you look at the chart to the left, you can see that there were approximately 10 firms, 10 very young firms in 2005 across the world. One of those was oDesk, one of those was Elance, one of those was freelancer.com, for example, or one of its earlier versions. But by the present, we know there are probably well over 150 distinct platforms and businesses that are pursuing some type of online staffing types of businesses. And as we're going to discuss later, more traditional incumbent staffing businesses are getting into the game as well. At this point, the number is probably realistically across the world about 200 distinct platforms and businesses developing and using platforms for different reasons. The value of annual spend on the platform this year in 2014, we've estimated that it's probably about $2 billion in total, which is really just a fraction of the total worldwide staffing spend that we know is something on the order of, if you add everything up, it's something on the order of 400 billion. Temporary staffing alone, I think, is below 300 billion worldwide. So it's still a small fraction, but it's potentially going up to, by 2020, to 47, in the range of 50 billion. If everything falls into place, and we're going to talk a little bit about the factors and what might be driving that forecast. Now, once again, if you look out into 2020 and you look at a $50 billion number, that does not simply mean online workers that are being labor arbitraged across different countries and so forth. It also includes electronically arranging work for on-site workers and a whole range of different things. So what is driving this forecast? Let's flip to the next slide. Where is this growth coming from? Well, of course, traditionally, or to date, online staffing has been driven by, on the demand side, by small businesses who have been using online freelancers, most of which are working across country boundaries. And that is going to continue to change. Most of the demand has been coming from, and that is going to continue to grow. Most of the demand has been coming from developed economies, particularly the U.S., and there is going to be more and more demand among small businesses outside of the U.S. as well, and we're definitely seeing that happen. So there's a lot of growth that's going to come from that. But then there are several other, David, I'm not sure if we flipped to the other slide. I'm not seeing it on my computer.
Hang on one second, Andrew. Let me, it's supposed to be showing, but let me take a look at the audience view and see why we may, if you want to keep going, I will go back and forth. And
yeah, I will. I sure will. Okay, so there are four other factors that are driving the growth beyond kind of a continuation of the development of these large international global online staffing platform marketplace types of businesses for online freelancers. One of those is, as I mentioned earlier, not only can work be arranged for workers that would work, contingent workers that would work online, but also there are platforms that are beginning to arrange work for workers that would work on site. In addition to that, we're going to talk a little bit more about this. While most of the demand has been coming from small businesses, we are starting to see evidence of large businesses also beginning to tap into online platforms for these types of engagements. In addition to that, we mentioned before, online staffing platforms. It's not all the same. There are many different kinds, much innovation going on, and finally, we're seeing uptake within the staffing industry to use and leverage these platforms in different ways to be able to do a number of different things, some of which we're going to discuss. Some staffing businesses are interested in leveraging the platforms to make their businesses more efficient. Some are interested in using the platforms to be able to perhaps develop an additional line of business for delivering online workers who are working remotely to their clients. So, so that is those are a number of factors that are influencing the growth.
Now, Andrew, before we move on to the next slide, somebody had a question that I would like to bring up right now, which is, how does online staffing, how would you define it, and how does it differ from VMS MSP?
Sure. Maybe if I could hold that question for a little bit later, when we start to kind of focus more on the actual platform. But basically, the short answer is that online staffing platforms are basically platforms that in a very integrated way are able to bring those who need work and those who can provide the contingent work together. So I think I'd like to address that question a little later.
Sounds good. Thank you.
David, are the slides progressing or not? I'm just not sure. That doesn't show on
My screen view is showing that we're now seeing our businesses turning to online staffing. So if other people are not seeing that slide,
okay,
please
great.
let me know.
For some reason, mine is not moving forward, so good. It sounds great. So as I had mentioned in the previous slide, enterprises, larger enterprises, not just small businesses, are beginning to pay attention to and start to engage with online staffing platform providers. I wouldn't say that they're at the enterprise level, that there is any kind of significant adoption at this point in time, but the trends are moving in that direction. So, I put up a couple of other charts here from Staffing Industry Analysts from the Contingent Workforce Manager, Buyer Manager survey. And the top part of the chart on the left-hand side shows the question was asked, are you familiar to contingent workforce managers, are you familiar with online staffing services? And as you can see, from 2012 to 2014, awareness has been really increasing. The other question was about contingent workforce managers' use of online staffing, whether they're currently using, which is, of course, you can see in terms of the percentages is still low and somewhat flat, maybe increasing in 2014. But you see the question likely, or the response likely within 2 years is really shot up in 2014. So there's a lot of other evidence that interest at the enterprise level is growing, and that's kind of reinforced here by this quote of a colleague of mine, Peter Evans, who is along with GE and now with IBM's Palmisano's Center for Global Enterprise. And I'm not going to go over that, but it's there to kind of further make the case of what's happening here. So moving on to the next slide. So with all of this going on, what should staffing firms do? Okay, and so there are 3 basic things that would be very important. And the first one doesn't really cost very much, and that's don't ignore it. Get educated, as we're doing here today, and get clear about what is really going on. The second thing would be to start to understand, what your options are. What's out there? What could I really do with these online platforms? And then, to the extent that it's possible, start doing something with an online platform. At the very least, in order to start learning and adapting, get your hands around something, even if it's very basic, as we're going to talk about talent showcases, for example, later, or approach it more aggressively. Use it as a way to change your relationship with your clients, with your candidates, to develop a different line of business, etc. So, so get educated. Get to know the options, and start something beyond that in order to start adjusting. So next slide. So now we're going to kind of get into the heart of the matter here in terms of we're getting closer to actually looking at some applications. Some online staffing mythbusters, because the first thing was get educated, get clear in your mind as to what is really going on. So online staffing doesn't just refer to companies or players like Elance and oDesk, as we were saying before, freelancer.com. It's not just large-scale marketplaces. An online platform doesn't even have to support a marketplace. It can do other things, as we're going to see. It doesn't have to be about global labor arbitrage. It doesn't have to be just about online virtual freelancers. It's not just an application or something that can support a relationship with small businesses. It's quite a bit more than that. What it's really about is, if, staffing firms have added ATSs, they've adopted to VMS, they're using all kinds of different technologies for recruiting. It's really a continuation of that trend, and it's a new dimension to staffing, which, I use the term work arrangement intermediation for what the staffing business and the staffing industry does in general, but it's really a continuation of this ongoing digitization and streamlining of the staffing intermediation process and what businesses in the staffing industry do. And so because of this, in fact, over the past 2 years, we have been at SIA, and I have been personally monitoring kind of the uptake in the staffing industry that is associated with this, and there is a lot of interest and engagement that is starting to happen at all levels of the staffing industry and in pretty much all verticals. If either staffing businesses are starting to seriously look at and research these types of developments, and some are already engaging. And some of the big examples that I can give, which are very public and very clear. Randstad, for example, made 2 investments earlier this year, one in GigWalk in the U.S., another in a company called Twego in Germany. Probably recently that Adecco Beeline acquired a platform company called OnForce. And another interesting, not that noticeable development, Kelly actually launched a joint initiative with TaskRabbit called Kelly Works, which is a way of allowing Kelly to begin to support platform intermediated work arrangements between lower skilled workers locally and small businesses. So there's a lot going on, and it's happening, and those are some of the bigger, more visible plays, but it's happening with mid-sized companies. It's starting to happen with also smaller companies that I'm aware of. And there are many different approaches we're going to see to using online platforms, not just what you might think. Online platforms are really, really enablers to new and different ways of doing staffing or doing the same kind of staffing more effectively. So let's move on. Am I okay on time, David, or do I need to hurry up?
Doing just fine so far, Andrew.
Nope. Okay, good, great, thanks. Okay, so now, once again, in terms of education and getting clear in our minds, and then I can try to return to that question as I get on a little bit here about comparing online staffing to VMS and MSP. How does SIA define online staffing? And this, it's important. This definition has been around for a couple of years, and so it's very important to pay attention to what it actually is and what it's not. So, online staffing, as defined, is an online platform model. We're going to talk about this because this is important. That enables specific hirers and specific independent, typically contingent workers to enter into, complete, and transact work arrangements. Okay, so, interestingly, this definition might very well apply to a typical contingent staffing firm, temporary agency type of firm, because basically what that firm does is it enables specific hirers and specific independent, typically contingent workers to enter into complete and transact work arrangements from beginning to end. And so staffing firms do this. There's a whole model of how it's done, a whole set of processes that are proven and established. So they do it through ATS, through using recruiters, taking work orders, and from their clients or job recs, so on and so forth. There's a whole, I don't need to tell the audience what that's all about, but basically all of that is done. Well, online staffing basically represents a different way of doing staffing from the bottom up. And basically, that different way of doing staffing is based on an online platform model, which we're going to talk about right here. So let's move on to the next slide. So, when we talk about online staffing, what really is key here is the online platform model. And, staffing firms, the model of staffing firms today is such that there's a certain set of processes that fits into a staffing talent supply chain. There could be, there's the client at one end. There could be a VMS and MSP in the middle. There's all of the staffing firm processes. And then there's all of the recruitment and engagement of candidates, which could involve job boards and social networks and so on and so forth. There can be interfaces to payrollers and other service providers, insurance service providers, et cetera, et cetera. So that is the traditional staffing model. Online staffing is basically a way of getting all of those things done, having the same kind of output, but doing it based on an integrated online platform. So let's move to the next slide and talk about what a platform is, because this is really getting to the core of things. So a platform is not just a system, okay? Of course, in staffing, you have all kinds of systems that are used within the business or which you interface with, like a VMS, vendor management system. But within your business, there may be there is certainly an applicant tracking system, front and back office systems, a billing system. The system automates functions and processes. A platform, which is, basically assembled with a whole set of technologies, and typically very modern technologies, integrated all together. A platform enables relationships and transactions. In the case of staffing, the transactions are work arrangements. So it enables relationships and transactions between different parties on either side of the platform. So as you can see in this diagram, a platform can, it can do a lot of different things, but basically all of those things are to support the work arrangement. And we're going to get into that a little bit further, but again, platforms are used to enable a complete end-to-end work arrangement. So basically what an Elance or oDesk does, but it doesn't have to be for online work. It can be for anything. Or a platform can enable parts of a work arrangement. For example, it can be used for sourcing and candidate engagement and other kinds of things, as we're going to see. But the point is that a platform is everything together. So how does a platform differ from a VMS or an MSP? A platform, I think in our case, a platform is a technology that an assembly of technology that a staffing firm or anyone can use to perform or to enable staffing types of relationships or work arrangements. A VMS is basically a vendor management system. The purpose of it is to control and manage suppliers in the supply chain. And an MSP is really a management program or a set of processes and management of the procurement of procurement of contingent workers and services. And so A platform is an enabler, and it can be an enabler for any business, and it can be an enabler for a staffing business. So that's, that would be my answer to that question. So shall we move on into the next set of slides, David?
Yep, let's keep going.
Okay, good. Okay, so how can you play? Well, now we're going to get into Chirag Mehta of NextCrew is also going to begin to kind of layer in more concrete examples in case in case you're lost here in everything that I've said so far, and so you get some ideas to how this could work for a staffing firm. So how can you play? Well, here's a basic staffing firm in this diagram, and I think the diagram is pretty self-evident. You have your buyers and clients on the left that you have to sell to and engage with. On the right, there are all candidates and workers that you may have already engaged. Resumes are typically the currency of dealing with candidates. Within the staffing firm, you have your sales and service resources on the one hand, and your sourcing and recruiting services on the other, and you have a range of different systems, front office systems for dealing with resumes and other sorts of things, and back office systems for dealing with a lot of things. And as that's a lot of moving parts, basically. So let's flip to the next slide. So now you can start to use an online platform, and I think as we go through the examples here, it's going to become more evident as to what that is about. And so basically, as the dotted line around this whole thing suggests, you start to integrate and kind of develop an ecosystem among all these different players. You start to get more integration in your processes, and there are more things, most importantly, there are more things that can be done based on a platform versus the other types of systems and processes that may be in place. And we're going to talk further about those. Some of them can be very simple, and they're not an end-to-end kind of support of a whole work arrangement or set of work arrangements, but they may support some part of that process. So let's move forward to one of the first things that can be done, fairly simple things that can be done for a staffing firm or by a staffing firm, and that is to support the development of talent pools. Basically, talent pools, which you probably heard of, you can call them talent communities and so forth, but basically these are ways for a staffing firm not just to collect resumes, but to really develop a set of relationships with selected candidates and workers and maintain those relationships in an efficient online way. And I'm going to turn it over to Chirag to kind of talk a little bit about how a platform can be used to support a talent pool and what that would be like. Chirag?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Andrew, and thanks, David, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. And what we are looking at is talent pools slide. So what I want to talk about here in terms of talent pools. So think of talent pool as your active workforce. As Andrew mentioned, that most of the time in a typical ATS environment, you actually get a resume from a candidate, and you might be parsing it. And a lot of times, you get a resume, and then basically you keep asking for new resume from your candidates. In typical online staffing environment, this basically is a self-service for your candidates. So candidates are registering or logging in and maintaining their profile. And their profile may include many of these things. Could be their photo, their portfolio. Let's say if it's somebody's a graphic designer, it could be a portfolio of different work they may have done. It could be their credentials, licenses. So let's say in the healthcare staffing, there could be licenses which requires expiration date, or meaning it requires maintenance of those licenses. So all of those is now maintained by these candidates or your talent pool. Also, with this, when they log in or when you are looking at their profile, you can actually see that when they were logged in last, or how long they've been a member, and that kind of gives a good idea as to how active they are. So basically, by giving them access to certain information, it is really offloading a lot of work to them. So let's say even update to their phone number or email information. Now they are not actually sending you new update to resume for those kind of things, but they're actually maintaining that on their own. And that really, is one of the items you need to think about in terms of online staffing platform, where it is really a self-service for candidates. Now, another thing you want to think about is that how this talent pool would get into your system. So, David, if you want to move to the next slide. So there are a couple of ways you might want to think about. One is that you can always integrate with your existing ATS system. So you might have thousands of resumes in there, but you might have like 25% or 30% of those candidates. And out of that, some of them may be interested in working in this kind of arrangement. So what if you bring them over into this online staffing platform and they are managing their profile? Second option is that based on how you're going to post jobs, or you're going to allow your clients to post jobs, maybe they can search for jobs, and when they are interested in those jobs, they can apply for it, and when they apply, system would ask them to register. So that's another way to actually bring them in your database. But depending upon your client base and how you want to utilize this whole online staffing platform, you can decide who gets into this platform and how you can keep using them with your clients. So with that, okay, good. All right, so back to you, Andrew.
So great. So talent pools. So first of all, a platform can enable the creation of talent pools, and which is now you have basically an online digital collection of your candidates with which you can engage very efficiently, candidates and your existing workers that you can engage with very efficiently, and in many different ways that might be not possible today. So that so next we can move on to another kind of very limited, relatively limited solution, but it's a way of getting into moving toward online staffing and leveraging an online platform. And that's the talent showcase. So now you can start a talent showcase right from the beginning, or you can start with the talent pool and build up from there. And basically, what that is doing is bringing in the client side. So now, your clients have visibility into your talent, and your candidates and workers have visibility into your clients' job opportunities, but they don't interact in any way. So, Chirag, maybe you can take it from here and give some examples.
Absolutely. So on this slide, basically, so this is an example of a talent showcase. So think of that as your client's capability to search your talent pool. So with this option, you can allow your clients to search candidates many different ways. Again, depending upon your business, you can say they can search by skills, by location, what is important to your client. So they can search this candidate. Now, when I talk with my clients, or many times I get asked these two questions. One is that, okay, well, if we allow our clients to view candidate pool, what kind of information they can see about this candidate? That's one. And number two, if we communicate with them, how they get communicated, meaning that do they get message directly from a client? What happens? So I'm going to kind of answer those for you. I think most of you might have those questions too. So one is that depending upon, again, your environment and your client base, you might want to consider as to what kind of information client might want to see. Currently, I'm working with one client who, for them, we are actually customizing public profiles, meaning profile what client would see about a candidate. They would not see any name. There would not be any contact information. And basically, all they see is basically skills, credentials, and location.
So the client, the staffing firms, your client's client could not kind of use that information to figure out who the candidate was and try to go around and engage them
exactly,
directly.
Exactly. So there is no name. With some companies, we would hide the last name, so we would show only first name and no photos. So it's basically it would, nowadays, you can always find a candidate from a photo, but still it kind of takes some extra work. But again, you have to, depending upon, your client base, you might not have to worry about that. So that's one. In terms of communication, so what you can do, you can think about is that, okay, maybe client cannot communicate with candidates directly initially. When they try to communicate, the recruiter would get a message and they would follow up with a candidate, or candidate would get a message along with a recruiter. So those are the options. I'm working with different clients, who are open one way or the other. Some might not want to receive a message, but they want to still kind of stay in the loop so that way they can at least see what's going on. So there are several options there. And now
just a quick interjection. When I think of Showcase, I think of it as this type of solution. I think of it as that the client, or rather the hirer or buyer client, can look and communicate with the staffing firm, but there isn't really any mechanism for, in this particular solution, for communicating with the candidates. Right.
Right.
It's
right.
kind of a showcase, show only.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then another thing is that what you're seeing on the right side is creating a job order. So let's say they are looking at it. Now, what if they can create a job request and they can specify that they're interested in this candidate? So by the time a recruiter gets that email or job request from a client, that person, recruiter would already know that what client is looking for, what kind of job requests they have, along with that, which candidates they have liked from their talent pool. And now they can, it's much easier to follow up for that recruiter with those candidates and get back to client. So with that, back to you, Andrew.
And guys,
So
Andrew, if I can jump in for a second before we move on, we actually had a specific question about the talent showcase that I think we can all address. Great question. We had somebody who was looking at creating a showcase-like program for their clients, but this individual's concern was, would clients want to log into 10 different online talent showcase-like platforms? Wouldn't they rather have some sort of single service to find all of the potential candidates? What's your thought on that, guys?
Just to clarify, are you saying that the client would would not be so interested in dealing with the showcases of multiple staffing firms?
That's correct.
Yes. Okay.
So basically, in that case, you are saying that instead of, so if it's a community pool, right? I mean, you don't know that how those people have been screened, because sometimes depending upon, let's say if for a staffing company ABC, if I know that company screens candidates certain way, then I might feel more comfortable about just search for talent pools for that company versus another company. So it's just like how you guys distinguish one from the other.
Well, Chirag, I think your point's dead on. Go ahead, Andrew.
Why don't you go ahead, David?
I was just saying, from a marketing perspective, having a trusted relationship with the employers who are coming to your site is going to make them more likely to use your talent pool and not as likely to use others. Now, if they're using 3 or 5 primary staffing vendors right now, they might want some way to consolidate Talent Showcase amongst all. But I will tell you, there's definitely right now an opportunity for some first mover advantages, and a real life case study. One of our clients has a Talent Showcase product on their website. They're averaging 2 full-time placements a month from their Talent Showcase, and they're hearing from clients the fact that the clients can get a view into the types of people that are available, actually differentiated them from other staffing companies, and they just want an account away from a big national company who didn't offer that service.
Go ahead.
No. I was going to agree. I think offering this kind of visibility is a way to enhance the customer relationship, the client relationship, which of course is crucial for the staffing firm. But go ahead. Sure.
The other thing is that, and this is something also we are working with one of my clients, that what we are also doing is that this showcase, what there, which is there. Now, many times it might happen, that let's say there are 10 different showcases. that if you want to hire, we're looking at Carissa here and David. So let's say if we have those two people and you want to hire that person, what if those people are not available? So maybe some staffing companies making sure the people who are there in Showcase or listed in Showcase, they are available to work. Basically, it's a hot and ready talent. Versus other one might have a lot of talent, but when you want to hire them, they're not available. So it just all varies.
Yeah, and also the Showcase is really just one specific and limited solution, and it's of course a part of all of the services and offerings and extensions of a staffing firm. So some customers might rely upon it heavily for various reasons. Some might not, but it's really just one tool, the Showcase itself.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. And Andrew, that's a great segue to the end-to-end solution. So let's move on to that.
Yeah. So we've been talking about, we just wanted to talk about how these platform of this sort, these types of platforms, online platforms, can support very specific limited solutions. But really the real value of a platform comes when you start to use it on an end-to-end basis in terms of, and this is something in terms of clients actually, having more potentially engagement with candidates, where there is more self-service involved, where the client is really getting more control. Sometimes the candidates are getting more control, and that can be kind of a scary thing for a staffing firm, but it really doesn't have to be for a number of reasons, which maybe we'll talk a little bit about later. But you can help your clients to build their own talent pools. You can give or reserve kind of interactions within processes. That doesn't have to be full self-service and fully automated. It doesn't even have to be very self-service at all on either end of the platform. And ultimately, this is where we kind of get back to the what can be done with a platform that would be hard to do without one. And that is, it's a lot of work and it's a big thing, but creating a kind of marketplace business, an open marketplace business, is also possible. So, Chirag, I'm going to turn it over to you. And NextCrew is a good example of an end-to-end platform that staffing firms can use. It's actually the only platform today that I think is really geared toward that. But Chirag, maybe if you could talk about NextCrew and how it can serve as an end-to-end platform and what it can do, what these types of platforms do.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I would say that one of the most innovative part about our platform, our NextCrew platform, is that it allows you to build online staffing business in phases. So like, Andrew did mention initially that, you can start out with something small. So basically, you can really take baby steps. And it's almost like a Lego system, where initially you can say, okay, we're gonna start using it, but we're gonna just use the Showcase piece, and then later on you can slowly allow some of your client to actually access the system, but it's still limited access. So I'll actually talk about that, and we have actually started implementing some of those things with our clients. We also actually integrate with many applicant tracking systems, as well as backend system, also with VMS system, and I'll briefly talk about that. So in terms of front end, so I'm going to talk about just one of our example of our client who's in healthcare staffing business, and we basically took about 500 different healthcare individuals or talents, from their ATS, which actually has thousands of people, but people who were interested in being part of this kind of online staffing platform. So on an ongoing basis, we would actually take those people and then actually update online staffing platform, and they would be all self-servicing their profiles. So again, not everybody might be interested, but then you can figure out who would be right fit for that. And again, depending upon your industry, you might want to, it might vary. Also, as you're seeing here on the diagram, this is a screen workforce. So again, it doesn't have to be screen, but it depending upon what kind of model you want to start with. So you can, if you decide to have a screen workforce, we can integrate with ATS. And then we also have a lot of other functionality here, or modules. So SMS, we actually have built-in text messaging. We also have a built-in scheduling system. So let's say if you have contractors, and if they're working on a project basis, you can actually use that. Review system. So let's say if you have multiple offices and then you have multiple recruiters, they can actually keep track of candidates or talents by posting the reviews, meaning that if one recruiter is using some talent managed by somebody else, they can actually see reviews before submitting that to the client. Profile management, of course, that's a self-service for people who are in the platform. Also in terms of work orders, so you can actually decide how your client places job order. Like we talked about Showcase and how they can actually build a shopping cart. So that is one of the options. If you like, client can just log in and they can actually create a new job order. And we also actually allow, there is also a private talent pool concept, which I'll talk about. In terms of payment processing, so let's talk about backend. We have also integrated with multiple backend systems like ADP or QuickBooks or Paychecks. So we have integrated with those systems. And on the right side, I'm looking at it basically hybrid clients. So basically, some clients you might want to give them access to manage job orders, and some you might want to just give them access to just uploading timesheets. So all of that is possible with that, and it doesn't have to be everything together. And that's what I want to kind of talk about, is that you can start small and grow, add more bells and whistles as you feel comfortable with the platform. So if you want to move to the next slide. So another thing is that the solution what we provide is a white label solution. And this is actually just a simple example of my actually first client. So what you are seeing here is basically their website branded to match with their current homepage. And that's what we provide. So it is a white label solution. It has your logo, your colors. Every email which goes out from our system, that actually goes out from your company's domain name. So it would not be like NextCrew.com. Also, it would have, let's say, social media links. All of that would point to your social media, LinkedIn, Twitter accounts versus, NextCrew. So it is all white label. Anytime candidate or client communicates or reply to a message or anything, it comes back to you versus NextCrew. So I mean, you are basically all you are doing is using our licensing our service, but it's all branded to match with your homepage or logos or anything like that. Let's move to the next slide. So here, this is like one of the example of standardized talent profile. So this is the profile what we have as a part of our system. I do want to kind of mention that this can be changed. It's configurable. So with another client of mine, we are actually changing that. So when they send this to client, what they are saying is actually not photo, not name or anything like that. And with another client, we are doing it such a way so when there would be a link to set up a video interview. So they can actually click on and say, I want to schedule a video interview with this person. So those kind of things can be done. The thing is that you can also share this profile with your client. So let's say if client is looking for a graphic designer, you have these 3 people in your database, in your talent pool. If you want to take on the responsibility of searching and sending it to client, you can just share this profile with the client if client does not have access to this pool. Also work schedule. So if you are working with contractors or shift-based workers, you can actually keep track of the work schedule. So you know exactly who's available with this skill set at this location at this time. You can also easily add video resumes, so link to video resumes. So that can be added. And also reviews, that we kind of briefly talked about that. So that if client can post reviews, if you allow them to, or if reviews are posted by you, you can share with your client. All right, let's move to the next slide. So what we are, so this is talent selection and job setting. So when you create a job, now either if job is created by a recruiter, you can specify who can see and apply for a job. So job does not have to be seen by all of your talent pool. You can say that this is for specific group of people, or you can actually select individual and send them notification. When you send them notification, basically they receive it via text message or email, and they can actually show their interest. Here, your couple of examples, you are seeing that they show their interest. Now, if they are part of your pool, meaning that depending upon how you are creating your pool, if this person you know that you have screened them, you have interviewed them, and you know he might be the right person, you can basically click on confirm and confirm a job for them. Or if you like, you can actually share these profiles with your client. You can also specify work location. So for a job, so you can say that this job is at a specific location. This actually works out really good for in a healthcare staffing side, where let's say if it's travel nurses or locums, where they might have license in multiple states. So what if, when depending upon a location, and if a candidate has specified this multiple location where they have license or they're willing to work, based on that, the messages would be sent to them. Again, you can specify whether work has to be done remote or on-site. Right, let's move to the next slide. So client management. So this is an example of one of our screens where you can keep track of your clients and the details about their contacts, their rate configuration. You can also create a private talent pool. A lot of you might be aware of the term private talent pool. What basically it means is that you can create a specific pool of candidates for that client. So you're not actually opening up all the candidates to your client. Let's say if you have 10,000 people in the database, they cannot see all of that. But if you know that these 100 people would be a good fit for them, you actually just create a pool for them. So when they log in or when they search, they can see only those 3 candidates.
And this is a pretty hot thing. I know that a lot of a lot of companies are starting to talk about this and look for ways to implement this kind of thing where their staffing firm is helping them to build private talent pools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then great. So let's move to the next slide. And this is actually timesheet approval. So you can actually decide that how you want to engage your client into this process. So if you want, once work is done, candidate can actually update their hours in the system, and then clients get notified for those timesheet records to approve. And once they are approved, you can actually decide that how you want to integrate with your backend so that you can process payments. So as I mentioned, that we do actually integrate with multiple payment systems. But then if you like, we can also integrate with, PayPal type of systems where clients are charged, their PayPal account, for this work. So that is also possible. That's pretty much I wanted to show that it's pretty much the end right here. So if you want to move to the next slide, and I'm going to transfer it back to Andrew.
Okay, sure. So, so in this webinar, we've tried to kind of give you an understanding of what online staffing really is, and not just what it may seem to be. And of course, it's something that staffing firms can and are starting to leverage in different ways. And at the heart of it is an online platform. NextCrew has been used here as an example because it's particularly well suited for staffing firms. That's what NextCrew does. But as we've shown with the platform, you can implement certain limited solutions that would enhance staffing firm performance, such as allowing staffing firms to create their own talent pools and allowing staffing firms to create showcases for clients and candidates to have more visibility into one another. And both of these things could create quite a bit of efficiency and time savings on their own. But a platform really allows a staffing firm to go much further when it's used end-to-end and all of the capabilities are used. And to quote Guy Kawasaki at last year's Staffing Industry Analysts Executive Forum, it allows staffing firms to jump the curve and embrace innovative delivery models. So A staffing firm could implement an entire end-to-end online staffing solution for, let's say, a given line of business or a new line of business. It could use an online platform for opening a virtual branch office. And the interesting thing is that the platform does not need to be completely self-service. The staffing firm is very much and can be very much involved in the processes. Platform can also, as Chirag has been mentioning, allow clients to build or to have the staffing firm help them build their own private talent pools, which is something that is very desirable for clients at this time. And then finally, this whole thing can be taken to a whole different level and allow a staffing firm to start to develop a many-to-many online staffing marketplace, which would be something similar to a freelancer.com or an oDesk or Elance, maybe on a smaller scale, maybe for on-site workers, but this is something that could be done. So there's a broad range of things here, and David, I don't know how you want to finish up the webinar, if there are questions or whatnot.
Well, I'll jump in. Thanks, Andrew, and thanks, Chirag. Appreciate all the information. And Chirag, thanks for the real-life examples of what people are doing with NextCrew. We have had a couple of questions come in, and I'm going to start with the most recent one because it's very interesting. The examples from NextCrew seem that it is a platform for staffing agencies, but aren't online staffing platforms meant to remove the middleman, that is the agency? And now we're creating a second intermediary.
Can I take that?
All yours.
Yeah. Yes. No, absolutely not. And that's the misconception. Online staffing platforms, when pursued by an independent business like Elance, might become a replacement or for the intermediary, become a new intermediary, technology-based intermediary. But that is really not completely what online staffing is. Online staffing is just a platform that enables work arrangements, and that platform can be used by staffing firms and is starting to be used by staffing firms to continue to do staffing intermediation and do it in different ways and often faster and more efficient ways and ways that their clients are more satisfied with. So, the online staffing platform of a fully automated kind of end-to-end solution, completely self-service, is not completely proven in, and so, I think there is a major role. Large part of that future growth is going to be coming from staffing firms that are adapting online staffing platforms to their into their businesses.
Yeah, and if I can build on that, if you think about the value of a staffing company, your value is in talent acquisition, finding the candidates, and talent selection, screening the candidates. And the problem with the pure online platforms is they tend not to be great at the screening part of the process. So I think in the example slide was shown earlier was of a staffing company that actually had a pre-screened talent pool. So now the client company is still relying on the staffing company to be a trusted vetting process, but the online platform enables the staffing company to be more efficient about service, maybe to focus more, instead of on one-off recruiting for specific clients, focusing on becoming really good at recruiting for specific job categories, and now you end up with a cost advantage using the online platform for fulfillment. But I don't think it necessarily, because there's an online staffing community, it's going to replace at all what staffing agencies do.
Right, and I mean, and even further, just very quickly, I know we're getting to the end here, but even if there is a fully automated self-service process, that doesn't mean that it can't be a staffing company rather than some other company that is actually supporting that for its clients as a part of its portfolio of services that that it offers to its clients. So I think that it's not about total disintermediation and putting a new intermediary in. It's about bringing new capabilities in to serve clients better and get them talent.
Excellent, thank you. Chirag, a question for you. The question was, could NextCrew perform drip marketing or nurture marketing activities targeting the online talent pool? And I'm assuming that means to both grow the size of the pool and to deepen relationships with the talent.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes.
Any?
So, I mean, I'm sorry, depending upon what kind of industry it is, who's your talent pool, we can actually talk about that as to strategies in terms of, marketing to that kind of talent. But we have a lot of SEO built into our pages. We also actually allow talents to actually share jobs on social media and things like that. So if you want to simply grow your talent pool that way, that is all built in.
Excellent. And of course, if the person has questions, I know a company that might be able to help with the drip marketing as well. The next question was, in terms of actually getting data into a talent showcase kind of a product, what have you found to be some of the best ways to get the data from ATS into talent showcase?
Best way is actually depending upon that ATS, what kind of interfaces or APIs they have. We would actually tap into that. With some ATSs, it was kind of hard for us to do depending upon how modern APIs they have. But the best way to do it is that basically use that existing API and use that to actually import information in and actually push it back in also. So that would be the best way. Other ways are actually exporting data and importing it in, but that's, to me, that's not real time. So ideally, if there are APIs, we would tap into that, and that's the best way, and that way we can do it ongoing basis, and that's what we do right now, that we have those engines running on ongoing basis on a real time. So based on your criteria, we would pull candidate in, automatically send them notification that the account has been created, go ahead and start updating your profile.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And one last question, and just opinion from both of you. For a company that has not yet considered any sort of work in online staffing, does not have a strategy for proceeding down that road, what would you do as a first step? And if you could both answer that.
Talk to any marketing guy. No. I mean, so it's something. Number one thing is that you have to look into your business and see that what kind of client base you have. Maybe you might want to consider talking with your clients and see that what kind of interest they have. Would they be interested in, again, if it's a project-based work, are they interested in approving timesheet online? Are they interested in how they receive new candidates right now? Would they be interested in actually receiving, live profiles? So I think it would all come down to like talking with your clients and what kind of candidate pool you have, and again, what kind of industry you serve. Based on that, you have to come up with your strategy.
Excellent. Andrew?
Yeah, I would agree. I think, of course, testing your own markets, I think it's going to vary depending upon what business, what your staffing business actually is, what segment you're addressing. But I think, once again, there are many ways to start to get educated. This webinar was intended to be just the first step, but that is definitely education, and is definitely the first step. I'm certainly available for short calls. This is not a sale. I'm not selling. I'm just saying you can talk to different people. You can call Chirag or NextCrew or someone else in the industry and talk about what your needs are and what you're thinking, and get some feedback. And I think those types of engagements really help to advance one's thinking very quickly about what they may or may not want to do initially or how to move forward. So.
Excellent. Well, guys, thank you both very much. Really appreciate all the insights. If there are additional questions that pop up, feel free to reach out to us at Haley Marketing Group or to Andrew or Chirag. I'm sure all would be happy to answer questions. Want to thank everybody for taking an hour out of their time and hopefully learning some new things about the wonderful world of online staffing. And I also want to invite everyone to join us in just a couple of weeks. As most of you know, the staffing industry is holding this year's Staffing World, thanks to the American Staffing Association, right at their home in Washington, D.C. So we've got a team of 6 people from Haley Marketing Group that will be attending. And on October the 30th, I guess our Halloween treat, we will be doing a recap of this year's Staffing World Conference. So again, Andrew, Chirag, thank you very much, and look forward to seeing everybody on the next Lunch with Haley webinar.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.